All right, so it's officially 8:30. That means I get to say good morning, everybody, and welcome to our August Leadership Day Away. I'm Roger Fallabout from the Community Relations Department here at Peninsula Regional Medical Center. It is great to see all of you out there today. Great to have you back for another day of fellowship and education. Also want to find out, by a show of hands, how many of you were with us Wednesday in Ocean Pines when we broke ground for the new endoscopy center? Yeah, that's going to be a beautiful new building out there at the Health Pavilion Complex in Ocean Pines. And if you missed it, it's in today's newspaper, too. There's a great photo in there. And Tom Anderson, congratulations. They've elevated you to vice president. Don't know that Steve's been made aware of that yet, but welcome to the executive team. This means I'll have to reshoot the photo, that's all. That's all that means. I had about 50 folks join us for the groundbreaking, too. That was wonderful. And then another 300 to 500 more stuck around and had that old-fashioned pig picking with us that we do out there on an annual basis. And if I can, I'm going to take a moment and just share kudos to my team in PR and marketing, including Chris and Laren and Michelle, who did a wonderful job. We throw a really good party. And guys, thank you again for a really terrific job out there in Ocean Pines. Awesome job. As well, thanks to all the volunteers who came out to help us out. Facilities and our special police officers in particular do the yeoman's work all the time. And fellas and ladies, we appreciate that. Thank you for all the work that you did. And as well to our PRMC teammates in buildings 1 and 2. They opened it up, they did tours, gave everybody the opportunity to come through and see what's going on there and showcase the services. So that was really terrific, and we appreciate everything they did as well. Hey, as I look out across the audience, I see there are some new faces out there, and Steve will introduce you to those new team members when he's up here at this podium today, and also give us a quick executive update, some other good stuff before we get into the heart and soul of the program today, which includes a keynote from Randy Hyatt, who is with us. So please welcome your CEO and president of the health system of the medical center, Mr. Steve Leonard.
Told Roger no more Shorebird Stadium at this point. All right, good morning, everyone. You know, I was talking to Pauline outside, and I've actually lost track of how many we've done. I think we've been doing this a little bit more than a year now, or this might be the 1-year anniversary. So time flies when we're having fun. Today's a good session. You know, we've learned from the past, and we have an outside speaker since they're more interesting than the inside ones. But I will say this: I am excited about this play. You know, we have some really talented folks here on the team that are going to participate and deliver a very educational message, but I'm also excited to see folks kind of in action. As we do in other sessions, I do want to take a minute and introduce new leaders who are in the room. So if you wouldn't mind standing, and then we'll give you a round of applause at the end. We'll go from there. So is Bridget Devaney here, Clinical Supervisor of 5 Layfield? No. All right. We're starting out rough. All right. How about Russell Douglas, Supervisor of EVS? All right. Obviously, some people are working. We didn't get the message here. Kathy Foster, I don't think is here today. Chantel Sheridan. Welcome, Chantel. Excellent. So it's great to have you here. How about Tracy Tapman, who is a supervisor of our outpatient lab? Awesome. Welcome, Tracy. And then Lisa Kermish, Supervisor in Childcare. Are you here today, Lisa? Welcome, Lisa. Awesome. All right, so I got a little bit of a tag team action going on today. So we're going to go through our somewhat of our usual agenda, a little bit of recognition. You know, it's kind of interesting. Who here looks at LifeWorks on a regular basis? Yeah, that's the politically correct answer. I'm just going to tell you that right now. I get it. But, you know, in preparing for this, I realized that I didn't see some stuff out there. So I did take some time. So we're going to go through a little bit of recognition. And there was since May, there were really some amazing things happening at the organization. So even if you saw them on LifeWorks, I think it's worth taking the time and kind of refreshing folks of what's happened in the last 3 months. We're also going to do a little bit of a year in review. I get it. The year's not over. We're only halfway through it. But for goal and finance purposes, we have finished our fiscal year. So I'm going to go through where we ended up with our goals for the year and tell some stories there. And then the last section is I want to spend some time just giving all of you my perspectives on leadership and our values. We are in the transition process with the new strategic plan. So Cindy and I, and sometimes supported by Tim, we're always doing orientation and talking about values. So next cycle of orientation, we're switching over to the new values. So I want to talk a little bit about those and just kind of connect them to leadership. We're in the process. Mitzi is here somewhere. We're getting a team together to redo our care cards with the new values. So what's that? August 16th. So it'll be a good kickoff to that. All right, so some introductions. And by the way, this is being taped, so hopefully there's like a delay, if I happen to slip on something. It actually is being taped for educational purposes, so we can use it in the building. We're not going to be on TV. First recognition, Dr. Harold Jenver was our physician of the quarter last month, I guess. We rolled this out. So if you know Dr. Jenver, great guy, been here almost as long as CB, and provides urology services. And I love the write-up about him because he can come across as a bit grumpy and rough around this is literally what was written about him, a bit grumpy and rough around the edges, but he just does a wonderful job, and he's been a great provider to the community. On the APP side, how many people know Jessica Dung? Yeah, where's our 5 South people? Is your world better when Jessica's there? Absolutely. So if you don't know Jessica, she's a physician assistant for Peninsula Orthopedics. Jessica should get a medal for taking care of Dr. Petrera and Dr. Trauger, quite honestly. She should be APP of the quarter every quarter, and you can show them that on this tape. So she's just absolutely wonderful. At this point, I want to have Cindy come up and talk a little bit about our Daisy and Sunshine winners, as well as our employees of the quarter.
Thank you. Okay. Good morning, everyone. Yes, and we do have a lot of great things going on at the hospital, and the reason we do is because we have a lot of great people, right? So we'll talk about some of those. The first one is Jean Bulkley, and Jean Bulkley was the Daisy Award winner for July. And Jean's story that stood out was there was a combative, disturbed patient on the unit, and so she found a teddy bear. Well, the patient didn't accept the teddy bear, so she went down to the junior board, and she found a baby doll, because last time a baby doll calmed this patient down. Well, when she took it in to the patient said, "That's not my baby," and so she didn't accept it. Well, as it would happen, there's more than one disturbed patient on the unit, so she actually took the baby doll to another patient who was acting out, and she accepted the baby and calmed down. So the staff were very pleased with Jean's addition to the unit, so her thoughtfulness for the patient. So congratulations to Jean when you see her in the hallways. And then Leah Carlucci on the screen, she's the gal in the middle with the daisies. She was the award winner for June, so a round of applause for Leah. And Leah was caring for an end-stage breast cancer patient who was scheduled to be admitted to hospice the next day when her heart rate went up and she started experiencing some anxiety. And so everybody thought we need to transfer her to the cardiac unit. But Leah knew the patient's wishes, and she had a DNR order, so she helped the patient and the family and advocated for the patient's wishes. And the patient received additional pain and anxiety medications that eased her fear, and that was what she truly wanted. So she made a difference at the end of life for this particular patient. So another round of applause for Leah. And then our Sunshine Award winners for July. Mary is extraordinary with her patients. She never knows a bad day. And a patient said, she would visit with me every morning when she arrived at work. Listen to this story, those of you who work on the nursing units. In addition to her direct patient activities, she would put her head in the door throughout her shift, what do we call that, just to make sure that everything was okay and if she needed anything. There was never a need to ask for anything because she could anticipate it before I even mentioned it. It made me feel less cut off from the world when she was there. She has a natural ability to make you calm and less fearful. So Mary certainly makes hourly rounding kind of a natural thing to do, right? So a round of applause for Mary Adams. Rebecca Reed was the from the same day surgery was our Sunshine Award winner for June. Now, she frequently goes above and beyond for Peninsula Regional. Recently, she was caring for a patient and she found out it was her birthday. The one thing that the patient wanted, anybody want to take a guess what this patient wanted from the junior board? Milkshake. So I heard somebody say it. Yes, that's the one thing this patient wanted was a milkshake. So Rebecca went, got one for the patient, and while she was there, she also got a balloon, because can you celebrate a birthday without a balloon? So the patient and the patient's family were very appreciative. So a round of applause for Rebecca. Now our employees of the quarter. Anne Mulroney of Pediatrics was honored for being incredibly compassionate to patients and families. Recently, there was an 11-year-old boy who was admitted for surgery with a broken leg and wrist, and Anne just took real care of him as if he was one of her children. And so as the story goes, she was the patient's cheerleader, and when he would want to give up, she would coach him along. And when he was discharged, before he left, he was crying because he had to leave Miss Ann. So Ann spoke to him in a gentle, reassuring voice and made the transition easier as well. So congratulations to Ann as Employee of the Quarter from the Nursing Division. Tiana King of Surgical Services was honored in the Nursing Division as well. Tiana is on the GYN and Urology team in the OR. So she works with Dr. Ginbert. She can probably tell you some stories. But there is not a team in the OR that she doesn't help out on numerous occasions. She's always willing to step in. She's trained a lot of folks in the operating room. She's friendly, helpful, and always willing to step up to the plate. So congratulations to Tiana King, who was an employee of the quarter. Deborah Bosman of the pharmacy earned Employee of the Quarter in the Administrative and Support Division. And it's clear that Deb is important in many areas in the medical center because she was actually nominated from several areas, from nuclear medicine, information services, and from the pharmacy. So she ensures that patients have the medications that she needs, and she's a real team player throughout the hospital. And I'm sure you've seen Deborah Bosman. You can see her here on the screen. You see her throughout the hospital, always smiling. So congratulations to Deborah. And then Denise Talaferro earned the Employee of the Quarter Award in the Professional Division. She's a tremendous asset, they say, and I see folks at the radiology table shaking their heads. She's a tremendous asset to the radiology team. She exemplifies leadership, patience, confidence, competence, and an exceptional work ethic and teamwork. So congratulations to Denise as Employee of the Quarter. And a round of applause to all of those who were award winners this quarter. All right, I'll turn it back to Steve.
Thanks. Thank you, Cindy. I'm nervous this thing's just going to fall off. All right, so some more introductions here. We've got some new provider members to the team. I know Simone and her group's probably really happy to have these folks. First one is actually with our neurosurgery group. Sharon Weber comes to us from Arcadia University, and she joined the neurosurgery group. Second person is Usad Hassan, who is a new hospitalist. He comes by way of Brooklyn, where he did his training, and originally from Grenada, so great to have him here. We got Amabel Florendo, who is a nurse practitioner with the hospitalist group, and she comes by way of Minneapolis. And then Dr. Guman, a new hospitalist. He was up in Brooklyn as well. And then finally, I met him in orientation. I can't say his last name. He just said Dr. Shabab. Is that right? Okay. So he is new to the hospitalist group, and he comes from Howard University in Washington, D.C. What's really neat, folks, is we're hiring a lot of new, I don't want to stereotype, younger providers, and they're talking. I sat down with the GI doc the other day we're trying to recruit, and how did he get referred here? Because he's got a buddy who's a nighttime hospitalist here at the medical center, and that hospitalist was talking about how good the facility was, and that actually goes a long way in terms of recruiting folks. Some more introductions. Want to introduce Dr. Mark Wiseman, who is our new Chief Medical Information Officer. So, CB, did you invite Mark? Oh, he's working. Okay. Did he know he should come to this? All right, so Mark is our new CMIO, Dr. Wiseman. He comes to us from Sentara Hospital down in Virginia. What we were looking for I'm going to talk about Chris in a minute, was somebody with 5+ years of Epic experience and was an active provider. And what's great is Mark is going to be able to really help kind of work us through our learning curves, you might say, having experience as an Epic provider at Sentara. It's kind of interesting when I always when I hear us perhaps talk a little disparagingly about Epic, I always struggle with that because we're talking disparagingly about an inanimate object, essentially, that it definitely impacts our lives, but a lot of that is based upon choices that we make and how we do workflows. And I know our IT group, Teresa, Ray, and so many others help us work through that. Mark's going to be a great addition to that process and really helping us ask questions. How are we using this new system? Sometimes those questions are uncomfortable, they're out of the box, and sometimes change is difficult, but you know what? Sometimes you have to go through difficult things to get to a good outcome. So it's great having Mark on board. Who here doesn't know Dr. Chris Schneider? So it kind of became official maybe in July that he is now our Chief Patient Safety Officer and Physician Advisor. He also has a side job sporting covers for GQ magazine, because seriously, I mean, I'll leave it there. But obviously, Chris has been with us a long time and just a great member of the team. And his role is going to be now more forward-facing with actual patient care on the floors, interacting with doctors, championing patient safety, and as a physician advisor, really working with hospitalists, volunteer medical staff, and moving patients through the system. So we're really happy that Chris took the job when I asked him to, and between him and Mark are really going to have a huge impact and help CB. The other person that I do want to highlight that I know helps these three individuals is Susan Ellerding was recently promoted to Manager of Medical Staff Quality. So I saved it for a little later because quite honestly I know why CB and Chris and Mark will look so good, and that's because Susan and Patty and others in that office make them look really, really good. So it's good to have them on the team. Some other things that I came across. There is a publications out there. Does Wen come to this, Deb? Wen Chow, is he here? Okay, so we have Dr. Wen Chow down in performance engineering, and arguably, you might not know this, we have a couple PhD-trained performance industrial engineers down there, and what was really cool is the folks who won last year's Chairman Award and the Ed Urban Quality Award, Wen, along with those team members, translated that into publication. And 2 of those articles were published in Tier 1 journals for industrial engineering, as well as he was invited to a national conference, the Industrial and Systems Engineering Research Conference. Is David here? David's not here, he's working too? Okay. I'm sure David felt really smart, because I feel really stupid around Wen. So it's definitely great to have Wen and others in that group on our team. I know Jeannie's here somewhere, right? Jeannie, another publication which was great that I came across in LifeWorks. So Jeannie, how many years have you been here now? 32? 32. Let me tell you something. Jeannie could work anywhere in this country, running any heart center in this country. And she came here 10 years ago from Wisconsin, and 32 years ago, and she chose to stay here. And I know she's been all over the world lecturing, and quite honestly, we're extremely fortunate to have Jeannie, and she recently published, and I'll tell you this, the cardiologists are extremely fortunate to have Jeannie as well. So what another great thing. Thank you, Jeannie. Something else that happened between last time and this time is we had Nursing Assistant Week. I love what we did, and I didn't know much about it, and I'm sure Cindy and the team did, but we really did a nice job highlighting the nursing assistants last month. And there was different spreads out there and different ways to make folks feel appreciated. Quite honestly, it is one of the hardest jobs in this building. And I know the nurses appreciate them, and as an organization, it's important for us to recognize them. So we did have Nursing Assistant Week within the last quarter as well. And just some great folks out there, some sunshine winners, and some good stuff. Warner and the crew, where are you? Excellent, congratulations. We were also recognized with the Gold Plus Quality Achievement Award for our stroke center. So great work being done up there. Let's give them a round of applause. This is something I came across, which is just awesome. Do you guys see this one? Raise your hands if you saw this one. Now I'm going to know if you're really telling the truth. See, less hands. Okay, I'm just pointing that out. There's a theme here. So this is a really cute picture of Mark Edney and a little girl. Her name is Hannah Inslee. And if you weren't aware of this, when she was 11, and this was how many years ago? Back in 2007, she was at Westside Intermediate School, and she won a naming contest for our Da Vinci robot by calling it SAM, Surgery Aiding Machine, I believe is what it was, or Surgical Aiding Machine. That's her with Mark Edney, Dr. Edney, when she was 11 years old. Look how cute Mark looks as well. And what's great is fast forward to today, and Hannah is entering her junior year at Salisbury University, and she is going to become a nurse. And how cool is that story? Because She credits that experience with getting her started. So let's figure out how and when we're going to hire her, because she's halfway through college right now. So it was really cool to hear that. And Mark doesn't look so bad so many years later. So good stuff there. So, one of the things we always have to be thinking about, where is the next Hannah? Where's the next Sophia Shakur? Dr. Shakur, I often tell people she was a volunteer in our same-day surgery department back when she was in high school, before she did all kinds of world-class smart things and became an endovascular surgeon. Brandy and Heather hosted some Girl Scouts, I believe. Where are you, Brandy? Yep, at the Cancer Center. You never know. So, I had I think I had some middle school kids in my office. Really, that's really what we need to be investing in from a leadership perspective, because you really don't know who's out there and what kind of impact. So thank you for hosting the Girl Scouts, and because you never know, the next Hannah, the next Sophia might be in that group right there. All right, you might not have heard, we had a health fair. Where's Kathy Fiddler? There you are, I'm sorry. You're sitting there waving your hand. I'm sitting there. Apparently, we went to an island for a health fair. So we took a boat ride and went to Smith Island and and brought essentially healthcare to the community. So good stuff there. I see all kinds of folks. Chris Field, our friends at McCready, were there supporting it. And it really does speak to, sometimes we have to go to all kinds of places. Sometimes they're close, sometimes they're far. And that was a great thing. So thank you very much for folks who participated in that effort. All right, not sure we talked about this one, but I did want to mention it. We actually won an award from Epic, and our revenue cycle people are, where's Keith Dowdy and his crew? There they are. Okay, they're all over here. We won an award, Keith and the team won an award from Epic as being recognized as one of the top 10 revenue cycle departments out of all of their clients. I mean, that is absolutely amazing. So it can be done. We're going to get the clinical people there as well. But the revenue cycle people have dove in, and they look at different measures, how long it takes to collect a bill. There's certain things that they look at. And our folks, Keith and his team, are doing extraordinary things, and we're recognized back in May as a top 10 out of a couple hundred Epic locations. So how about a round of applause for Keith and the team. Yes, I should say this. Medical records, Gwen Kravick, all the front-end people, because quite honestly, if you're not doing it well on the front end, Keith, how hard is the job? Thank you for bringing that up. It is a team effort, so we don't collect it quickly if it's not done well up front, so thank you. Something else that I wanted to highlight for a minute. I came across this. We have new nursing preceptors, and really cool when folks step up to a role that allows them to then help train the other folks who are coming into the building. They're nurse preceptors today, and what I would tell you is I would probably suspect in 5 years they'll be in this room as future leaders, and that's important. It's important that we're continually trying to identify who are going to be our future leaders. So when I came across this, make notes of the names. Some of the faces are already familiar to me, and it's great to see folks grow and develop. It was interesting because obviously in my new role, I interact with the board on a very regular basis, and I was having a meeting with the executive committee, and one of the topics is succession planning. Now, me and my humor sometimes, and I didn't say this out loud to them, but I'm like, I just got here, and should we be talking about this? It's been like 5 months. Anyway, and they thankfully brought up in case I got hit by a car or something like that, so it made me feel a little bit better. But, as leaders, so then I went to the executive team, and we're all doing this, really what is our plan? How are we identifying those new leaders tomorrow just in case, but as well 1 year, 2 year, 5 years from now that we want to see develop in the organization. So it's just a very natural thing. Peggy had one going back a number of years, and we're putting that together. And we've talked about succession planning in the past here in this organization. And as you might imagine, when I worked with the executive team on what our plan looks like for each of our roles, there's lots of names and lots of people out there and lots of opportunity. And that's one of our responsibilities, is to help people grow and develop. And so those names that might be on the list, well, guess what? They need folks to help grow and to develop in their roles and so forth. So I look at this picture and I see, lots of opportunity, for folks to contribute in the future, which is a great thing. Want to highlight another one. We had 5 folks in medical imaging. Are they working today, or is Muriel here? Yeah, at least one of them's here. Excellent. So we had Maisie, Muriel, Kimberly, Lynn, Matt, and Joshua all earn certifications. And I'm a big fan of this, so congratulations, Muriel, to getting your certifications. Why don't we give Muriel a round of applause? Muriel is our radiation safety officer, by the way, so she has a really important job to keep us all safe. So thank you, Muriel. But certifications are a great way to grow and develop. So as much as we can keep pushing that, I think it's a great opportunity to kind of get folks engaged and stimulate them intellectually, and that's really important. We'll talk about that a little bit later. All right, we had our PRMC ALS clinic was recognized as the first treatment center, Warner, in Maryland. Is that right? This is a, I remember when we started this program, but then I remember my brother-in-law, his father, passed from ALS. And the services that the larger ALS team here provides are just phenomenal. My brother-in-law's father, they're up in the Hudson Valley in New York, not far from the Westchester Medical Center, Valhalla, 800-bed teaching hospitals. And you know what? They don't have this. And really, for folks who are dealing with ALS, to be able to come in and receive coordinated care, it's truly a godsend. When I was telling my brother-in-law about this, they never had the benefit, and here they are in Metro New York, and not having an organization like that. So Warner, definitely to you and the team. It came from, we're an ALS recognized treatment center. We're the only one in the state of Maryland, and some truly great things as a result of a very large team of folks. So please extend my thanks to them. So thank you. All right. It seems like every time I'm here, Sophia Shakur, Dr. Shakur, is doing another first. So our medical staff is amazing, and I think even all of them would agree Dr. Shakur is amazing. So the other day we had our first, we had a ruptured aneurysm patient who lost the use of limbs, couldn't speak, went to Atlantic General Hospital. They recognized extraordinarily quickly and appropriately that it was an aneurysm, and they needed to get that patient to a definitive treatment center. And thus we have that here at this medical center. So Dr. Shakur was able to work with her OR team and radiology team using the new endovascular suite and do a minimally invasive procedure to put coils in and immediately stop the bleeding. And this type of presentation has an extraordinarily high mortality rate. And quite honestly, if she was not here, there is no one else who could have done that on the Delmarva Peninsula. And you don't know what would have happened to this patient. And I just love hearing these things. And like I said, our community, and again, she grew up here. Where is the next Hannah? Where's the next Sophia? She grew up here. She went to school. She came back here, and she's doing absolutely amazing things. So I shot her a note, and she appreciates all of the support, quite honestly. It's not one person. And Kathy Fiddler said something the other day. I'm not sure why we were on the topic, but how many hours of support does it take to get one pilot in the air? How many hours was that? 200 people work to get one pilot in the air. So I can guarantee if you look at our medical center, there's a couple hundred people enabling Dr. Shakur to have this type of impact, and that's important for us to keep in mind. And I think we committed to figuring out and calculating it, because I think we can actually figure that out. So All right, winding up the recognition, I do want to highlight another one. I happen to sit with them today, and it is our Women's and Children's Division. How cool is it? 5-star, top 10% for labor and delivery. So a round of applause for Women's and Children's. Great stuff. So again, folks, most of that actually was available on LifeWorks. So I need to do a better job of staying on top of that. I won't have you put up your hands for if there was anyone who actually saw all of those things, but we will take some time to reflect on those, at these types of meetings, because we are doing amazing things, and sometimes life goes by too quick. It's a week, and I'm looking at LifeWorks, and I don't scroll back far enough, and I'm sure some of you have that same challenge. So some great things. So congratulations to everyone out there. All right, switching gears. We are going to talk about our year-end summary. All right, this might be a little bit hard to see, but I can talk through it, so it'll be okay. So if you remember, we had our goals for this past year as an organization. Overall, we had a pretty good year, and obviously we'll talk about that from a financial perspective a little later. On the quality side of things, we did okay. We probably could have done a little bit better, but we did well overall. So there's different measures the state has out there, and these things aren't going away. A lot of it is Maryland Hospital acquired conditions. Things that happen in the hospital that probably shouldn't happen, at least most of the time. Some of the stuff is coding and all that kind of stuff. But these are things that we, want to continue improving on. So we had a couple of reds that stayed red: catheter-associated urinary tract infections, cavities. These are infections when someone has a catheter. As a team, we don't feel we're doing as bad as this red reflects. Some of it's documentation. Some of it, though, is perhaps culturing stuff that we maybe not need to culture, so it's kind of like a self-inflicted ding, for lack of a better word. We did improve on central line associated bloodstream infections, so that worked out better. MRSA, MRSA, bacteremia, we got some work to do there. The C. diff team, how many people were on the C. diff team? Good, because you're still thinking about it, obviously. We're still green, right, Beth? Good stuff there. So we actually talked about applying some of that discipline to these other teams, and which might help. Surgical site infections, that was one case, and as well as abdominal hysterectomy, we're green on all of those. Do want to highlight the sepsis bundle. Sepsis, I think, Susan, is our number one DRG. Is that right? Number one. So that's a type of infection that people get. It has a high mortality rate, and there are now bundles, and bundles would say that if you do these things, you should have a better outcome. So when we started the year, our compliance with those bundles was 16%, and when we finished the year, it was up to 47%. So and the average for the country is about 50%, because sometimes you just don't know what's going on, and there's all kinds of stuff. So great work there. That's translated into lives saved, because the data will tell you if you apply the bundle. If you or I came in, we'd want the bundle applied to us, and now about half the people are getting it, and we're going to continue working up. Maryland Hospital acquired conditions. CB, how many are there? Oh, he looks to Susan. See, I know how this works. 40-something. So these are a whole host of things. We're in the green, quite honestly, which is a good thing. We still have some opportunity with some of the ones individually, but overall we're in the green. Potentially avoidable utilization. This is a combination of readmissions. Are readmissions good? No, whenever, sometimes you can't avoid it, but let's face it, if you have a service done, you don't really want to come back and have that service done again. So readmissions and things the government would say are admissions that perhaps shouldn't be happening. I'll give you an example of one is management of diabetes. In theory, if you manage your diabetes well outside of the hospital, keep your sugar levels within an appropriate range, you shouldn't have to come in the hospital. Well, guess what? We have diabetic patients who come in as a result because they perhaps aren't managing their sugar. Is that our fault? I hate to say not necessarily. Sometimes the patients do this to themselves. They might not have a good relationship with the primary care doctor. They might not know the endocrinologist, and sometimes they have a hard time. So, but they still ding us from a state perspective. So that's something we have to keep an eye on. CHF is another one, congestive heart failure, diabetes. Those are probably the two biggest ones. So from a quality perspective, lots of greens, a couple of reds, and I know Cindy and the nursing team are working hard on a couple of those reds. Something that didn't make the organizational level goal, but I will tell you is just as important at the unit level is falls. That's an MHAC, a hospital-acquired condition. So I do want to recognize, is our 3 West team here somewhere? Awesome stuff, 3 West. Round of applause. We've had our lowest fall rate since 2016. I think the lowest in 6 quarters. So some great stuff there. Granted, sometimes people fall. I mean, gravity is there, and even 3 West can't exactly stop it. So, but there's things you can do, get people up and walking, help them, and they're doing a great job. So thank you to the 3 West team, because I know it's an important nursing sensitive indicator. On the patient experience and employee and physician engagement chart, yellow and red, and that's the reality, for lack of a better word. Any idea why I put them together? What's Robin? I know one's not going to change without the other, and that's the reality of it. In order to have a great patient experience, we have to have an engaged team. Now, what's really cool about this is the work that's been going on. If you look at you can't really see this, but the first quarter, we were at the 16th percentile, arguably, again, bottom quartile. Then we went to the 53rd percentile, then the 61st when it turned yellow, and the 60th. I attribute a lot of that to Cindy working with nursing leadership, stabilizing staffing, and really creating an environment where the team had the ability to have such a positive impact there. So hats off to Cindy and the nursing leadership team. Obviously, all of us have a role in patient experience, but I know they worked very hard with the support of the organization to kind of stabilize things, and you can see patient experience went up each quarter. Now, employee engagement and physician engagement, they didn't go up. The reality is we haven't measured. So I'm optimistic that as you create a better environment, those scores go up. Those scores, when we measured this, when did we measure? Last fall was the 21st percentile for physician engagement and the 31st percentile for employee engagement. I know there's been a lot of work done on both those measures. I know a lot of work by everyone in this room, really connecting with their team to create that environment. So I'm optimistic that when we remeasure in May of this coming fiscal year, if like patient satisfaction, my prediction is that they've gone up as well. I know Dr. Ng, as president of the medical staff, has really taken this upon herself to have and really work on a number of ways to improve medical staff engagement. It's not easy engaging the medical staff these days. There's the ones who work for us, and that world is about as stable as we know it to be, which is kind of crazy at times. The folks out in the community that are still independent, they do not have an easy world. If you think we have it hard kind of dealing with the state stuff, I always say try to be an outside doc in private practice, and it's even harder. So I'm very happy Simona has really taken it upon herself, and with CBA support, trying to turn that one. And like I said, on the employee engagement side of things, we know a couple things rose to the top. Consistent with past surveys, many employees said that they've got a good relationship with the people in this room, which is great. They've got concerns a little bit about senior management, and that's just the reality of it, because they look at us as the organization. So we've been trying to look at ways that we can help, in terms of addressing some of those concerns. Some of those things are around compensation. Some of that's very challenging to address. Lots of questions around benefits. So we're looking hard at making some changes to our benefit. We're actually, can I say it? Okay, we're actually switching from conifer this year, okay? And I know one of our goals is to go from 2 cards or 5 cards down to 1 card, just to simplify things. So we're working hard on trying to simplify that type of stuff and make it easier for the team, because that's the feedback that we heard from the employees. So overall, it's red and yellow, but I'm very optimistic about what this coming year looks like. All right, I want to invite my friend. Where is John Mitchell? John Mitchell to the stage here to talk to us a little bit about the financial update. Bruce is a bit under the weather, and we'll kind of bust on him later and make him watch the entire video and take a test. So here you go, John.
Good morning. Just a few points, won't take a lot of time. Most of our key statistics for FY 2018 were very positive. Who remembers what we budgeted for our bottom line this year? 0. So we beat 0. We made about $7 million for the year. But it's kind of like we made the playoffs but didn't win the ring at the end of the year. So I always have to have negative news along with the positive. But overall, as a system, our operating margin was only about 0.83%, and our goal was about 3%. So we still have a little bit of a gap there. But in the end, or let me mention one other thing as well, the total margin included about a $40 million one-time stock market gain. So when you think about it from a personal perspective too, your cash flow, when you win in a stock market, it's a good thing, but you can't always predict what the stock market's going to do. So even though we had a very good year, we still have some work to do on the operations side. But in the end, we also were able to provide a bonus. So, and not only we announced one bonus number, and then we were able to increase that. So that was a good thing as well. So thank you all for that. And the last thing too, we recently had a call with Standard & Poor's, the S&P rating. These are the agencies that rate our bonds, you always want to have a positive bond outlook in case we have another major capital campaign. And that way, your interest rates are lower whenever you go to market. So just recently, we were upgraded from a negative outlook to a stable outlook. So that's also another good financial positive. And that was mainly based on our results through March versus the 2017 fiscal year. So all in all, very positive year. We just got to keep that momentum going for 2019.
Definitely some good stuff there. We had an extraordinarily busy season. I don't recall. I've only been here like 15 years, 16 years. The floors, the offices, you name it. The flu season was really busy this year, and much of our performance is related to folks working really hard. So we're really glad we were able to do that and provide that recognition. But it was a lot of it the result of hard work, and we appreciated that, and thankfully we're able to give back a little bit. From a additional goal perspective, population-based care. Some things going on there that are worth talking about for sure. We do have some goals around chronic disease management, diabetes and cardiovascular disease, largely centered on our employee population and how do we support our own team, our covered lives. What's that number? About 4,000 folks, Mitzi, covered lives-wise. And some folks struggle or have to manage their diabetes or cardiovascular conditions. So they work with employee health and case management to work through that. So we had a little bit of red there because of some staffing challenges. We got back on the horse, and that's been going well recently. From a weight loss perspective, we did transition our weight loss center to Core Life, and we're really happy to report that opened up. I'm going to tell you, it was not a smooth transition when you look back. It took too long. You're dealing with insurance companies, getting numbers, new sites, all kinds of stuff. But we did close down at the MAC and opened up Core Life. So again, what is Core Life? Core Life is a place where folks can go who suffer from obesity, and primary care doctors don't always have time to deal with this, to help them work through these conditions. So they can be referred to a place like Core Life where it's centric to their struggle. There's a provider there, nutrition, diet, comfortable exercise space, because not everyone's comfortable working out in Powerhouse Gym, and for them to work through, for the team to help folks work through that struggle. And we're happy to report that they opened up. This one is up on, actually not far from here, on Beekman Park, over towards the mall. So that's really cool. What's also really cool is now that they're open, let me give you some numbers. Fiddler, when they open? What's that? Last day of June, so a little bit more than a month. They've done 165 consults, 132 are scheduled in addition to that, 175 referred patients on top, 25 referral sources. More than half of them are not related to the health system, which I find fascinating. 98 patients have started the program. They have 50 new visits before Labor Day. The office in Easton is opening up September 10th, the Berlin office around October 15th, and they're looking for another office on the south side of town in Fruitland. I think we have an office up in Chester, and we're looking at Millsboro as well. So this is going to be, we're very optimistic, this is going to be a tremendous resource for the community. Because as that struggle continues, then you get into diabetes, the cardiovascular issues, and you name it. So we're really excited about this, and they're off to a good start, and we're looking forward to, in the future, sharing what are really great success stories as a result of folks engaging with this new service that falls under the health system. So, so good stuff there. Some other goals around reducing the total cost of care. There's lots of stuff going on in Fiddler's World. Sorry, this rolls off your tongue. We've got primary care connection to the ER. Nancy, Kathy, and others are working through that with their accountable care organization. Wellness Van is out and about in a pretty structured manner these days. We've got the SWIFT program that's putting advanced practice professionals in the home with EMS to folks who are calling 911 often. We're working on pathways. We're working on redirecting folks to urgent care from the ER. And we did implement Healthy Planet, which allows us to manage cases and populations, not just here in the building, but throughout the continuum. So some good stuff there. We've also been doing some stuff with chronic care management, partnership with Coastal Hospice, Peninsula Home Care, end-of-life planning, and community clergy, which is great. And then finally, on the access side of things, Core Life I talked about, endoscopy. We were happy, and I'll talk about this in a minute, break ground on a new endoscopy center. And the HR benefits. One of our partnerships, this change in our HR benefits, is actually as a result of Mitzi and her team working with the Advanced Healthcare Collaborative. So that's Sinai, Frederick, and LifeBridge. So all of those hospitals came together and evaluated what might make sense from a employee benefit. So some good stuff's there that people will appreciate. Roger kind of mentioned it, but we did break ground yesterday on a new comprehensive endoscopy center in Ocean Pines. So this is really cool. Dr. Jerry Kanakis and his team came on board April, and we're excited now to break ground on a new endo center in Ocean Pines. So some good stuff there. There's us on the line. It started pouring literally as soon as the as soon as the dirt landed, it started raining. So then we quickly went inside. We stayed inside, but then a rainbow came out, and the rest of the evening, it rained for about 10, 15 minutes. The rest of the evening was great. There's junior board was there. There was a whole host of, as Roger mentioned, you know, the people on the Ocean Pines campus, all of those different services really came together to provide, you know, there's 300, 400, 500 people from Ocean Pines that came through. And really it was a great opportunity for us to showcase what does good care look like close to home. And, you know, what are the benefits of engaging that campus in your journey towards health and wellness. We also had a professional face painter there, and that's Greg Clendeniel's daughter, by the way. And I remember her when she was born, and she's a friend of my daughter's, and it's scary. All right, so all in all, I would definitely say we had a pretty good year, which was great. And again, a result of a lot of hard work by a lot of people. And so my thanks to all of you, and thanks to the team. So good stuff. Totally lost track of time. I left my phone on my table, so I'm not sure where I am, but we'll just keep going. We want to finish off, and we're going to kind of transition now. And I think this will be important for kind of folks to get this message. And I want to dive into a little bit of our values that we're transitioning to and kind of give you my perspective on those. And this is something that Cindy and I do every orientation cycle. We talk about values and what they mean to the organization and kind of new team members, what it should mean to them when joining PRMC. So I think as everyone knows, we had our strategic plan, and the usual, the triple aim was augmented by the quadruple aim, and I mentioned it before. We can't get where we want to be without solid care team engagement. It's just not going to happen. And what's our role as leaders? take the first three and translate it in and help that fourth one so that we can have an overall a good outcome. So our role, when people ask me, well, what's your job as a leader? I'll put the visioning and all that kind of stuff aside, depending on where you are in the organization. I have to do some of that, Chris, and our executive team and others. What's our role? Really, it's to support the team doing the work. I mean, you can start boiling it down to some pretty easy terms. I'm going to kind of go through some additional stuff. The good thing is our mission didn't change. Our vision did change quite a bit. It's kind of funny because we'll stop showing our old vision and start putting this vision up. This one's a lot easier to understand, hopefully. If you remember the last one, it was 3 or 4 or 5 sentences long, and it was a lot of mumbo jumbo. And I helped develop the mumbo jumbo, so I will take the credit and the blame. But the team really came together and said, what do we want to be? And if you look at what we've been successful at doing, and it's on the backs of people who came before us, we've been successful at providing world-class care at 100 East Carroll Street and through some of our ambulatory sites. Our goal in the future as a health system is going to be all about providing world-class care across a continuum, all of the different things that folks need on their journey through life. Okay? And that's really what we should be striving for as a health system. It's not just about fixing people when they're injured and making them feel better when they're ill, but it's also about keeping them healthy and well and living good lives. And that's really what all healthcare systems should be focused on, not just about what they used to say, heads in beds, but really how do you engage the population, thus Ocean Pines, thus getting out there and connecting people with care close to home in a convenient manner. And that's really where we want to be going. Trust me when I say this, we will always have heads in beds. We are PRMC, and if I have to have my head in a bed somewhere, I know where I'm coming. And we're always going to have the specialists that when people really need that care, that acute care hospitalization, this is going to be the place. So no doubt it's always going to be there. It's always going to have an extraordinarily important role. But more importantly, in the future, how do we do a better job comprehensively? From a values perspective, I talk about this in orientation. I kind of go through these. So we landed on respect, service, honesty, safety, accountability, and compassion as a part of our values rewrite, for lack of a better word. And some of our values aren't there anymore, like transparency and stewardship, and they're kind of baked into some of these values. So we're not discounting those, the importance of those going forward, but I think we're kind of emphasizing really what's that fabric that we have to have in our culture to help us achieve our mission. So when I talk to employees, I talk about respect, and I'm going to kind of go through these like I'm talking. Imagine you're all in orientation. Okay, and we talk about respect. And if you're new to healthcare, I think people immediately think about, well, I have to respect the patient. Yeah, that's true, don't get me wrong, but who else is it important to respect? Everybody in this room. Okay, it's the relationships that we have, it's the interactions we have as a team that allow us to have great outcomes. And if we don't respect every member of that team, it's not going to work well. And everyone, much like we just said, it takes 200 people to get a pilot in the air. For a surgeon to work in that operating room, for Simone and Dr. Ring to be up on that floor, I can guarantee you there's a couple hundred people providing that support. And it's important that we respect each other as team members. And I often tell new orientees, especially if they're new to healthcare, sometimes healthcare is stressful. Yeah, it doesn't always go right. I mean, let's face it, people aren't machines, and healthcare is not a mechanistic, always working science. I mean, Simone, you're still practicing medicine, right? Let's face it, that's just the reality of it. Sometimes it's stressful, sometimes it doesn't go well, and that's often the time when that respect sometimes breaks down. And you see it kind of in communication, strained relationships, whatever it might be. That's the time when people have to come together and say, how do we make the best of this? And how do we take care of the family or the patient through the process? So that's respect. You also have to take respect in appearance and language and behavior, but let's face it, hopefully we're screening that out on hiring. You know, we want to take it to another level, you might say, when it comes to the team. From a service perspective, you know, it's fair to say that we're in a service-related business. We're people taking care of people. And we always have to be striving for exceptional service, you know, and why? Why should we be? You know, I think you can roll back the clock, and I think I would have said it, other hospitals would have said it, well, we're being measured on it. You know, the government's holding us accountable to it. Really, is that a good reason? No, it's not. It's not the best reason, you know. Sometimes, believe it or not, the government doesn't always measure things that are meaningful. or how they measure it sometimes challenged. Why should we be striving for service? I tell new folks, you're not going to walk through our building or you're not going to walk through one of our ambulatory sites and not run into family, friends, and neighbors. And to me, that's another bar. It's a whole nother level of urgency when it comes to providing service. New folks, if they've worked in an urban environment in a city, they could take care of a patient and they might never see him again. And don't get me wrong, they should do a good job, but our bar is even higher from a service perspective, and that's really what we should be striving for. And sometimes that's not always easy, because do our customers usually want to be with us? No, they don't. Except the table up front, they're kind of, it's a happy time, thankfully. But most of the time, guess what? They don't want to be there, and sometimes that strains how they present. And that's a challenge for us, and that's a challenge we should look forward to in some ways and say, how can we help them work through this? So that's my spiel on service. From an honesty perspective, integrity, honor, and ethics, I always tell people, and this is kind of that transparency, previous value getting rolled into honesty. I can't always tell people what they want to hear. I just can't. But I promise I'll never lie. I'll try to make it, I'll try to explain it and help people understand. But we've got to be honest with our team. We've got to be honest with the patients. That's a hard conversation, isn't it? And we have to help them work through that. And but we want that honest, open communication. Peggy didn't warn me on this, but I often wonder if I should have had a psychology background when I took this role, because lots of what I find that we deal with are strains in communication and relationships. And sometimes it's just being honest and open and having a dialogue that works so well in having a better outcome. From a safety perspective, this is a current one. I tell people in orientation, ask this question, is healthcare sometimes dangerous? It is. We're people practicing medicine on people, and neither are perfect. And do we want to design systems that help us have a safe experience for the patient? Yeah, absolutely. That's why we put things in place that really are there to provide a safe environment for our patients. I tell everyone in orientation, it's everyone's job to identify things that are not safe in this organization, because we're not perfect. And sometimes humans present, situations change, where our systems don't always address all of those things. So from a safety perspective, we always want it top of mind. I also tell people, and we started doing this a couple months ago, if you as a caregiver, how many people here still give medications? That's awesome. I highly encourage that as leaders, maintain that competency. If you give medications and you choose not to scan barcodes, is that a problem? That's a different type of discussion. Now you're choosing to ignore something we've put in place. And that's not long for a good career here, quite honestly, if you choose to ignore things. So we want you to speak up about any opportunity, but at the same time, we also want people to use the systems that are in place, and because they're important. Accountability, continuous improvement kind of got rolled in there, and we have to hold ourselves accountable to providing all of the things I've just talked about. We always have to be seeking to improve them. People did it before us. And in many ways, I often say, we're accountable to the folks who set this organization up over the years. And that's a responsibility if you think about it. I was in the Boy Scouts. I wasn't like John. I wasn't in the Eagle Scouts. So you were an Eagle Scout, right? No? Your sons were. Good accomplishment there. I just assumed you were. But anyway, I'll still assume you were. The old saying, leave it better than you found it. Quite honestly, all of us should be holding ourselves accountable to, whenever we end our careers, retire and enjoy time at the beach, like I saw people at Royal Farms gassing up today on the way here and going to the beach. We should be able to look back and say, how did we impact this organization positively? Because people did that for us, and really what less does our community deserve? And finally, compassion. I'm glad we have this one so clearly stated. We're in healthcare. If you're not, and it's one of the times I'm blatant with the new hires, if you're not a compassionate individual, this is probably not going to be the organization for you. I'm pretty clear about it. And you know what? It doesn't matter where you work. You can be in accounting, you can be in finance, you can be in support areas that don't necessarily touch the patient, but you have to be kind of woven that you're a compassionate individual. And the beautiful thing? I can talk to the people in accounting, finance, back office, supply chain, all the other folks that could work in another industry. And what happens? Why do they work here? They like the fact they're taking care of patients. They might not be directly touching patients, but they're supporting people who are taking care of patients. And that's fulfilling. And that lines up well with really what every person on the team should be like. So that's essentially the spiel the new team members will be hearing about values. Next step is to kind of take these evolved values and re-engineer our service values a bit, because these were developed outside of our other values. So we're going to kind of put them together. So this will flow a little bit more seamless with our new values. So that's that. Now, let's switch gears a little bit. From a leadership perspective, well, what's leadership's perspective on these values? Doing it better? A higher bar? Yeah, that's true. But let's talk about it for a couple more minutes, and then we'll go from there. I'm a big fan of this, leadership versus management. You know, many folks, how many people here have an MBA? Yeah, or a business degree, or you're taking a business class. You probably focused more on stuff on the right. How to be good managers, how to plan, design, set up systems, how to improve things. That's the management side of the equation, and that's an important part of our role. Okay, but it's not our total role. We have this leadership side of our roles, which is really how do we engage, inspire, take that vision of those first three aims on the quadruple aim, engage the employee base, and achieve what we're trying to achieve. That's leadership, that inspiration, motivation, and so forth. Thankfully, I can't remember all the stuff from my MBA. I try to, but this is why we have our house. The house helps us on the management side of things. I'm not going to go into detail on this, but all of the stuff on the bottom is how do we operationalize management? Okay, how do we create an environment for people, for the process and systems to work and ultimately achieve our goals? But it's not everything. Okay, it's not always that leadership side. It's not really, well, how do I engage my team member on the house? You know what I mean? It's one thing. Let's do a value stream, but well, no. How do I inspire and motivate people on why to do the value stream? That's leadership, and that's the difference. So from a leadership perspective, what does the literature tell us? I'm not going to go into this too much in depth, but there's all kinds of styles out there. Hopefully you're not autocratic. Hopefully you're not laissez-faire, country club. You might be authentic. I'm a fan of that, although I think that was a researcher looking for a paper. But I think there's certain things out there that, from a leadership perspective, work well for us, my own perspective. When I try to influence folks and role model and positively impact their lives, that's pretty good. When I motivate them through inspiration, I try to articulate a future vision. That's a good thing. When I individually consider them, meaning I think of them as a person, not somebody who's doing work. In other words, I ask about their family because I'm actually curious about their family. I want to know. That's individual consideration. That's usually something that resonates. I can't teach people how to do that. If you don't do it because you want to, that's probably a challenge from a leadership perspective. If I don't stimulate folks intellectually, help them grow, that's probably a challenge. That's probably a challenge as well. I'm really excited about some of these job fairs we're doing, and we have hundreds of people coming in for entry-level positions. I'm really excited about that. I mean, I'm also wondering why they didn't hear about job postings previously, but that's okay. They're here now, and they're saying, I want to come in, I want to work in transport, environmental, really crucial roles. I want to be a CNA, I want to be a medical office assistant. And what's great is we can take where they are now and help them grow and develop from a career perspective. That same person might be a nurse in a few years from a CNA. I mean, somebody might go back to school, on our dime, and that's okay. We have to always, it should be part of our mission to stimulate our team. My personal preference is that people serve. Like I said, what's our role as leaders? To serve our team. And how do we do that? I've already mentioned some of the things, but it works well when you empower them, okay? And you've got a certain sense of humility. It's okay to give credit to other people. I mean, that's something we should be striving for. Put them on the podium and see what happens, and let it rip, and give that credit there. Then again, being authentic. I view that more as an aspect of leadership, not necessarily a style. It's an aspect that I think is inherent to all good leaders. And so that's a little bit about leadership. So going back to this, besides my last one, leading from the front. I often tell people, if you get into leadership because you want to get away from patient care, that's probably a problem. Okay? And I always tell people, as much as you can stay connected with the patient, there is no better way to influence your team better than, quite honestly, you maintaining that competency. The further up you go, the further useless you get, quite honestly. I mean, that's just, we're doing other stuff, but the magic happens at the bedside, it happens in the office, and if you can maintain that and lead from the front, eat last, those are huge wins from a leadership perspective. So I'm going to finish on this. Leadership and values. I talked about the employee perspective on values. From a leadership perspective, what I want you guys thinking about is, well, what should I be doing from a values perspective in my role as a leader? My respect is, I respect each person in the room, but I have to respect my team. If I don't respect my team, they're not going to respect me, and that goes both ways. I serve, not the patient, I serve the patient through my team. And I have to support the team in order for them to take care of the patient. I got to be honest with the team. I got to tell them when things are going well and when things aren't always going well. And that's okay. We're on a journey together. From a safety perspective, I mentioned patient safety. One of my pet peeves, though, is our team safe? Somebody asked me what kind of keeps you up at night. Believe it or not, it's not the Maryland stuff. Quite honestly, is the team safe? I pause. I take a breath when I see somebody shoot somebody at a hospital. That's the safety we need to be thinking about. Is our team safe? Thankfully, we have a great security force. Accountability. I'm accountable to my team. If I'm not doing my role as a leader, that's where my accountability lies. And finally, compassion. Thankfully, we're all compassionate in here about our patients. We should just be as compassionate about the team. And are we supporting them? Because life is not easy. And our role is to help them do their jobs. And you know what? They used to say, well, you come in, turn it on, turn it off. Turn your problems on, turn it off. That's really, let's face it, is that doable? No. So you know what? Sometimes we have to peel things back and figure out what's going on. I am going to ask Roger not to shag fly balls for a little while. You can go back at some point, but you got to have that compassion. You have to be there supporting the team so that they can take care of the passion. So that's my spin on values for this room. And think about it, especially as we roll these out. And really, how are we holding ourselves accountable to meeting these standards? So with that, I believe I'm done.